Good Wednesday morning, Quad Cities. It is Wednesday, July 22nd. We are at 9:07 and welcome into a brand new episode of Ask Andrew Live. Wednesday already.
Wednesday.
Ooh.
It's Wednesday, my dudes.
Yes, and just because it's halfway through the week doesn't mean we step off the gas. Nope. No, we are full throttle, full speed ahead. Welcome in. I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzke.
I'm meteorologist Matthew Clark. All gas, no brakes.
That's right, yeah, because we have had a lot going on this week.
Yeah.
We had heat, we had humidity, wildfire smoke, severe weather.
It was all of it.
Yeah.
The whole kitchen sink.
Everything.
Thrown at us on Monday.
Such a busy start to the week. Now it's feet up.
Yes.
Relax.
Oh, man. And, I stepped outside my apartment this morning, and I was like, I was like, This is what I signed up for.
Such a nice temperature pattern.
Oh,
we
yeah.
love it so much. So we're going to be talking about a lot today. We have, of course, some activity in the tropics, and I'm going to kind of pull you in as my tropical
Hurricane
expert.
specialist.
Yes, pseudo-hurricane specialist, if you will. So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about, of course, what's going on with the wildfire smoke.
Yep.
Our Ask Andrew question today was actually related to that. Was the rain on Monday harmful as it fell through the wildfire
I don't know.
smoke? So we're going to find that out. Also, we're going to talk about when the heat and humidity are going to return. So stick with us. Lots to cover. And then, of course, at the end, about 10 minutes from now, we'll have time for your questions.
Yep.
So get those in the chat right now. You can do it on our Facebook Live, or you can text our phone number, which is 309-304-0888. Either way, we'll get those questions in. There's your phone number right there at the bottom of your screen.
Yes.
So I want to start with the change in air mass starting today.
Yeah.
Because there is a number that is blowing my mind away.
Number?
And it's not the temperature.
Oh, I'm sure it's the DP.
Dew point. Look at what the dew point is
I'm going to guess.
morning.
I'm not going to look. I'm going to guess
What do you think?
42.
48. It
Too
is
generous.
It's the end of July.
Yeah.
We are in max corn sweat right now. And the dew point is 48 degrees.
Let me tell you, this is late fall, early winter for Florida.
Yeah.
Like, this is, like, if you wake up like this in November, you're jumping for joy. This is July 22nd.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to Florida, this afternoon.
You are,
Just
yeah.
going
You're
home
flying
for my
on outta
weekend.
here.
And guess what? I didn't even need to look at the forecast. I did. 94 degrees, 75 dew point, and now I'm going to be missing this fantastic weather. I mean,
Yes.
48-degree dew point, that is beyond refreshing.
The folks in Florida, they're going to say, why didn't you bring some of that down with
know.
you,
I know. I
My
need to
goodness.
Put it in a jar and bring it down with me.
See if you can fit it in your suitcase.
Yeah, exactly.
But the reason that I'm pointing this out is because this is something we do not see very often here in the month of July. So we talk about that dew point being that measure of moisture and our comfort level. Anything below 60, extremely comfortable.
Yeah, I would say.
When you're talking about like 48 degrees, that is non-existent humidity.
Yeah, that's bringing out the
us here.
chapstick.
It is, yeah.
That is bringing out the chapstick.
It really
Lack
is.
of humidity.
It's
Dew point
weird
in the
to say
atmosphere.
that too in July.
I know.
We should be sweating our buns off.
I know. I was thinking the same thing when I was leaving my apartment this morning. I was like, I may need my chapstick for this.
Yes, and it's like if you're going to sweat, you're going to have to actually work really hard to sweat.
Yeah. I was playing hockey last night, so I was sweating last night. But
Something like that, yeah.
I played hockey last week at 6 o'clock when it was feeling like 500 degrees outside, and
awful.
that was awful. So last night was definitely refreshing.
And that's what I'm saying. You guys have to take advantage
But
of this.
it took a lot to work up a sweat. So, and it's going to take even more to work up a sweat because the dew points were in the 60s still last night, and it's just continuing to drop.
Yeah, even tomorrow.
Yeah.
40s. What about Friday? Well, Friday we start to see a little
No.
Just a little. Notice that dark green still
Below
staying
60.
away.
Yep.
Yeah, still not too bad. But as we go into Saturday, which I'm not going to take you into there right now, but you can guess what's going to happen
Transition
Saturday
day.
and the weekend. Yeah,
Kind of a transition day.
going to kind of go back into the case of the stickies.
That's why it's called a break, right?
Yes.
And not, a permanent.
Yeah. I mean, it's the end of July.
It is the end of July.
It can't last forever.
No.
And it never does.
All is good cannot last forever,
That's right.
unfortunately.
Got to get sticky again. What about the smoke?
Smoke is important, yep.
We're not doing too bad. A lot of us can handle the moderate air quality. We don't want to see the orange, the red, the purple,
Especially
and
the
the pink.
pinks and purples.
Yeah.
No.
That notice, it's nowhere to be found anywhere close to us this morning.
Yeah.
So we're doing real good.
I was saying err on the side of caution last night before you open up the windows, just in case, you have any suspicions about the smoke, just err on the side of caution. Don't, there will be plenty more days this year where the temperatures are like this at night and you can open up the windows.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Never fear. It's going to repeat itself.
it will.
So what about the future, though? What's going to happen with that? Well, it's interesting because we're actually getting smoke from a different source that's going to be coming in south of us tomorrow into Friday. This is actually coming from wildfires in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, that's fun.
Believe it or not. So thankfully, high pressure, it looks like, is going to be close to us, that this is going to kind of smush it further to the south as we go into tomorrow night, which is good. But, we're still going to have to keep an eye on not only that direction, but areas to the north for any smoke that may try and work its way back in here. But it looks like the near term, we're okay.
I will say, even the smoke like this, the only thing that really does is just make for a little bit of haze in the atmosphere and a fantastic sunset. I mean, I'm sure you guys noticed the sunset last night.
Yeah.
That sunset was insane last night. I was driving across the I-74 bridge right around sunset, and I was like, holy moly.
It was so pretty.
It was awesome.
So beautiful.
It was really cool. I took some really bad photos of it because I was driving. So I didn't get out of my car on the side of the highway to take a photo of it. But if you got any good sunset photos from last night, definitely send them in because
Send them our way.
It was very pretty.
It's gorgeous. So now that you know that, we got some comfortable days ahead. How long is it going to stick around? We'll throw up the 8 days so you can see that. Today, tomorrow, Friday, all 70s. Back into the 80s on Saturday. If you're going to be participating in the BICS, you've got it easy. Yeah. I was talking to our radio friends, Dave and Darren, on Planet 93.9, and most of the time people are on the sidelines during the race handing out bottles of water. I'm like, I'm going to be out there with my tip jar because they are really going to love this forecast.
Oh, yeah.
No, oppressive heat, no oppressive humidity.
Nope.
They've got sunshine.
That's
Beautiful
rare
the
for this time of year.
It is. It really is.
You're talking about an event held outdoors in late July. You're expecting heat and humidity. So this is definitely a treat. No doubt about that.
Take advantage of it.
52 degrees tomorrow morning.
I know.
And I won't even be here.
I think we're going to have a few folks with jackets on.
I was very close to putting a jacket on this morning. So if you're a few folks like me, then yes.
We're so acclimated to that heat that's going to feel chilly.
I know. Like, whoa.
Big change. Big change.
Yeah.
Heat, though, it comes back on Sunday. And it'll be around most of next week.
Darn.
So that's why you got to get outside. Enjoy it.
Hate to see it.
I know.
Unless you really like the heat, then, welcome back.
Then good for you.
And good for you. Get outdoors when it's 94 degrees on Sunday.
It is coming back. A couple other things I want to show you before we get to our question that we had for this morning.
Yep.
The folks at our National Weather Service office have been extremely busy this year so far. I wanted to update our warning numbers here.
Wow.
How many tornado and severe thunderstorm warnings have been issued so far? We are one warning away from hitting 300.
What happened a few years ago?
For the year. Oh, 2024?
Yeah, what happened there?
I don't even want to talk about it. That was such a busy year. That is the year that we had a tornado touchdown here in the metro.
Wow.
Go across John Deere Road. We had 2 tornadoes in Geneseo.
Wow.
Multiple events that came through.
Well then.
Yeah.
That's
Andrew
not
was
fun.
really tired
Andrew
in
was really tired.
2024.
We did not want to ask Andrew anything. Ask Andrew how much sleep he's got.
he would say very little.
Very little. Wow.
But yeah, like Evelyn said, the Greenfield tornado, there was so much going on that year.
Wow.
Thankfully this year not as busy, but it ranks up there.
And this is just between the first and now.
Yeah.
So that was 430 from the beginning of the year to now.
Yeah.
That's not even a year total. That's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
That is crazy.
So it's still a busy year, not as busy as 2024, but yeah, they have been very, very busy.
Third busiest since 96.
Since, at least.
At least, yeah.
I was going to do the tornado one too, and I'll do that later today, but the tornado warning year-to-date count is actually the highest ever since we started keeping track of, warning counts in 1986. So it's been a busy year for tornadoes as well.
Which we've gone over before as to why that is. Just got, more eyes in the skies.
That's right.
Even those tiny little spin-ups count.
Better technology.
Yep.
More people out there storm chasing.
Yep.
And then lastly, we're about ready to wrap up the month of July. How are things trending so far?
Hot.
No surprise, warmer. Also, no surprise, a little bit drier. We've had really long stretches of dry weather.
The rain on Monday definitely helped with that number. But I would be shocked if we saw anything substantial over the next 10 days to
Yeah.
close out the month.
It looks really dry.
Yeah.
There'll be some occasional clusters that'll come in, but we're not looking at anything in terms of like multiple days worth of
No.
widespread, consistent rainfall, as it usually is this time of year. It's very spotty.
Yeah.
So now you're up to date on the forecast, all the statistics, all that good stuff that I wanted to throw your way. Now let's talk a little bit about that hurricane
Yes.
activity, not
Hurricane,
per se, but hurricane season in full swing. And
Yep.
we've got Bertha
We got Bertha.
in the Gulf.
And it's not Big Bertha.
No.
In the slightest. It is very tiny, disorganized Bertha. It's continued to weaken since 24 hours ago, which is no surprise at all because look at where all of that activity is displaced. I mean, that's got to be 100 miles to the southwest of the center that the National Hurricane Center has. So there's like not an ounce of convection near the center of Bertha at all. And the visible satellite shows a really good picture. You get that big blob, probably about 100 miles to the southwest. And the eye is just off the east coast of New Orleans in southeastern Louisiana. 50-mile-per-hour winds. That's 50-mile-per-hour winds over the ocean waters. Winds can move faster over water because there's no trees or buildings blocking the winds. I was hearing reports from like Panama City Beach yesterday, and they're like, it was just like a cold front kind of moving through.
Yeah.
You know, there was a slight breeze in the air, a few tiny drizzles, but I mean, nothing at all. It makes for probably great surf. But besides that, I mean, New Orleans is under a heat advisory today because as the center of Bertha tracks over New Orleans, there's a few clouds, but they're going to be getting heat index values up to 110 this afternoon because of how much sunshine there's going to be.
Yeah.
And just a few spotty showers. So, I mean, when New Orleans is talking about a landfalling tropical storm, and I was there last summer, I mean, people go crazy when they hear anything in the Gulf, and they are taking this about as lightly as, a cloud passing overhead.
They're like, this is no big
And they should
deal.
be, because this is no big deal at all. And yeah, this is not going to be a concern for anyone along the Gulf Coast. I said my only concern yesterday was the remnant moisture, and there's really not even a lot of moisture with this storm tracking over Texas, just because of all the rain that they got a few weeks ago. That wouldn't be good. But I mean, look at all of that thunderstorm activity just staying off the coast. And it just continues to get sheared apart and torn apart. And yeah, that wouldn't be a good case scenario. Thankfully, it looks like it moves its way far enough west quickly. But that's, kind of right in that hill country area of Texas that just got hit really hard.
Yeah.
So that would be my only concern with Bertha. But it won't even be Bertha at that point. It'll just be a disorganized clump of storms.
It will be.
And there's a few other things that we look at. Obviously, the Gulf is a bathtub this time of year. It's like 80 degrees. That is plenty of hurricane fuel. But there's other things you need to look at. There's wind shear, there's dry air, and then there's spin in the atmosphere. The spin isn't all impressive. This is the wind shear of the atmosphere, and you can very clearly see those darker colors where the jet stream is. That is obviously a lot of wind shear because there's a lot of changing winds and heights, direction over height. And then you can see right where Bertha is, kind of a darker orange spot. And hurricanes do not like darker orange spots. When they see high wind shear, it kind of tears the storm apart from the top to the bottom. You need a vertically stacked storm.
Yep.
This is not vertically stacked in the slightest, as seen by where the convection is and where the center is from the National Hurricane Center.
And it's so opposite of a thunderstorm setup because, when we talk about severe weather here, we want wind shear to get severe weather going.
Wind shear is very good for tornadoes, but not good at all for hurricanes. Because hurricanes, they go way taller than, tornadoes go. I mean, like obviously the cumulonimbus storms that host the tornadoes, they go up to 55,000 feet at times. I mean,
very tall.
They go tall, but the actual tornado itself is, in the first few thousand feet of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Hurricanes need to be from the surface all the way up in that kind of cylindrical shape.
Yeah.
And Bertha is not that in the slightest. And,
No.
I've seen Helene shoot up right through that kind of, wedge of the Yucatan Peninsula in Cuba when it was a Cat 1. And I was like, yeah, this thing is going to go crazy. And, over a 24-hour period, it went from a Cat 1 to a Cat 4 before landfall. And it ran out of real estate before it was able to even make it to a Cat 5. And that was kind of the thing with Milton as well. Milton was a super tight bundled Category 5 just north of the Yucatan. But as it tracked towards Florida, it ran into a front and the wind shear tore it apart, which is why if you look at satellite of Milton, when it was making landfall, it looked a lot worse than it did a few days ago. And that's because of the wind shear. And you can just see the wind shear pulling Bertha apart on satellite perfectly. And all of the dry air, not to mention, there's an area of high pressure just to the north of it, and it's just bringing in wind shear and it's bringing in dry air. And, you know, there's a few clouds around the center. And
That's it.
this wouldn't be talked about if it wasn't named.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And there's probably some people, you know, in the weather community, we always have a healthy debate about this. Some people say it probably shouldn't have even been named at this point. But, you know, you have to look at the dynamics of the storm system. You have to look, does it have a surface area of low pressure?
Which it does.
So,
but it doesn't even have convection around it at this point.
There's no storms around it.
And you need storms around it to be considered a tropical cyclone.
It is a unique system.
It is.
I'll give it that.
It is.
Very unique.
You know, I mean, it still was able to grab all of that convection because of how long it's been sitting over the Gulf waters. But also, something worth noting is the Gulf is very shallow.
It is, yes.
Up until about the very center of the Gulf. And where this is sitting, it doesn't have what we call oceanic heat content, which is, you know, obviously the surface waters, they're going to be baking in the sunshine. However, you know, there's that whole column of ocean water below that holds heat as well over time, but there's really not much depth of that oceanic heat right now because it's in the northern Gulf.
And that's a great point, too. Yeah, it's kind of more farther away removed from that deeper bath water.
So it can pull the bath water right off the top, but then it starts getting into the cooler water below that. So that's also something to look at.
Things up really quickly.
There's a lot of things that go into hurricane forecasting outside of just ocean temperatures, because if it was just ocean temperatures, all of the storms in the Gulf or Atlantic would just boom, boom.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's a bathtub this time of year.
It is. It really is. It gets very hot. A lot of sunshine. It's closer to the equator. And much easier to do that.
Definitely.
So we're going to have a lot more, I'm sure, as hurricane season goes on. Don't forget, it really peaks as we get into August and September.
September 12th or 13th, I think, is the peak.
So we're just getting started. Again, it's still expected to be a quieter year, but that doesn't mean we're going to be void of storms.
It just takes one. And we didn't get one last year. And, you know, there were a handful of storms out there. But, yeah, it just takes one.
That's all it takes to mess it up. Let's go over our question real quick, and then we'll get to your question. So I talked today about the rain with the wildfire smoke that came in on Monday. So there's two different types of rain. One, I think we're familiar with acid rain. Especially during the Industrial Revolution in this country. We had smokestacks all over the place, burning fossil fuels.
What a time to be alive.
I know, the air quality then, I can't even imagine. But, you know, today, modern cars, better efficiency standards. We have better air standards as well. So we really don't have a problem with acid rain. But that wildfire smoke, is that something that could change that? Not really, because you have to look at what we're burning. Back then, you know, with acid rain, we're burning fossil fuels, which produces sulfur dioxide. That's an old chemistry lesson for you. Here, we're mostly burning organic material. That produces little to no sulfur dioxide. So this is not acid rain that's falling down. It's a dirty rain. You know, it's going to look dirty if you have a light-colored vehicle, but it's not producing acid rain because we're mainly burning organic material. The only difference would be comparing the Canadian wildfires, to the Palisades fire, for example, where you're burning entire neighborhoods, homes, cars. That would have some sulfur dioxide to it. But the fact that we're talking about remote areas of Canada that are mainly forests, this is not that case.
Especially eastern Canada is pretty much just all forest.
It's very remote. There's not many roads.
I think there's a stat that I saw where I think the entirety of Canada has a lesser population than Los Angeles. Like, Canada's remote.
It's sprawling.
It is
sprawling.
Don't forget, it's a large all that area. You know, wheat and cornfield. I don't know if they have corn, but they got a lot of wheat fields out in Western Canada. You know, it's very flat before you get to the Canadian Rockies. So, you know,
very vulnerable to fire.
You don't think about that. You think, oh, it's all just mountains and trees up there, but they got a lot of farmland in Manitoba and Saskatchewan.
It's very diverse. It really is. Let's get to your questions. And then we're going to scoot on out of here. Get ready for the 11 o'clock coming up.
Well, we'll ask a question from Tyler. When it comes to tropical storms, what named storm has gone the furthest north into the U.S.? And I think the first one that comes off the top of my head is Sandy.
Yes, that went all the way up the northeast coast.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Sandy was considered a superstorm because it went through a process called extratropical transition. And the surface fronts that we get in the winter time months, those are cold core centers,
Yep.
and hurricanes are warm core centers. So the warm, moist air. But these extratropical cyclones, my voice.
You're fine.
These extratropical cyclones are cold core. And so Sandy, as it tracked up the northeast, kind of went under that transition from a tropical to an extratropical. And if you looked at the wind field of Sandy, I mean, it went from this to just like,
So big.
yeah.
So
And that's
big.
because it interacted with the trough in the upper atmosphere and a surface front, and it, expanded. But that's the one that comes off the top of my head. I'm sure there's some in the 60s or 50s
Yep.
that hit Maine, or somewhere around there. But
I think most recent Sandy.
most recent,
I'm agreeing
the one
with
off the
that.
top of my head is Sandy, but I could look that up.
Good question.
That is a good question, Tyler. Chris asks, what is the highest air quality index number ever recorded for our area?
That I tried to look up, and I could not find a solid answer. The highest one that we had in the region with this round, you had to go up kind of Lake Michigan a little bit, but it was well over 1,100.
Oh,
And the scale goes 300, and then it kind of tops out. So
wow.
it was high.
That's high. Yeah,
It
that's
was
not
bad.
fun.
Very bad. But I'll see what I can find. I wasn't able to readily find it.
Riley asks, knock, knock.
Oh, it's a joke.
It's a
okay.
joke.
Who's there?
Lettuce.
Let us who?
Let us in. It's freezing outside. This is freezing outside compared to what we've been seeing.
Yeah.
This is considerably freezing.
That was great.
Then
Love
we
it, Riley.
kind of talked about this. Sebastina in Rock Island asks, talking about the wildfire smoke, do you think it will shift toward our area next week? There's a full moon, and I would love to see it very colorful as it rises.
Wouldn't that be? Yeah, it would change the moon to this really kind of vibrant orange color. We're not done with wildfire smoke at all. It will return. The challenge is figuring out when it's going to return.
And, I'm not 100% sure, how well it's being put out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
there's a lot of factors.
There is a lot of factors in wildfire smoke. That's why I was saying, even though we're getting this nice weather right now, if you still have, the smoke sensitivity, to just, refrain from opening the windows at night, just in case. Err on the side of caution, because, it can change on a dime. That's weather.
That's right.
But
That's what keeps us on our toes.
Emma Bucher is watching.
Hey,
Hey,
she's right over there, actually. I was like, wait a minute. I think she's still in here with us.
she just tuned in.
She's here for the knock knock joke, she said.
So yeah, that's all the questions in the Facebook chat.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You guys are great.
Yes.
It was
Good
great to
questions.
have you along.
And good
for
joke,
another
Riley.
week. Yeah.
Yes.
We love those jokes.
Yes.
Keep them coming. All right, we're going to let you guys get on with your Wednesday.
Yep.
Take advantage of the next 3 days. Get
right.
outside. If you see us out and about, say hello.
Yeah.
We'll
Well,
chat
you won't
some
you won't
weather.
see me. I won't be here.
Well, that's right. You're going to be gone.
But if you see Andrew, say hi.
If you see his plane in the sky, though,
Yep.
just look up and wave.
Yep. Oh, there it
Look up
goes.
and
There
wave.
goes Matthew.
There he goes. He's heading south.
I'll be back for Saturday though. No worries.
Yeah, he'll be back this weekend.
Yep.
And then you'll start talking about the heat again.
I'll start talking about the heat
I
again.
know, another
Man,
round.
I don't even get a break because I'm going to the heat and then I'm coming back to the
You're
heat.
coming back in the heat. I guess it's meant to be.
It's annoying.
It's
okay. I'm excited for fall.
Yeah, it'll be here before you know
Yes.
it. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you coming up on later this morning for GMQC at
Yes.
11. Evelyn will be in, and she'll see you then. Take care.